G'day YouTube, this is my entry for the Equipe2Endure and survivalcamping.com Build a Budget Bug Out Bag contest. The idea of this contest is to get on the survivalcamping.com website with a budget of $200, select around 10 to 15 items, to put together a 24-hour survival kit. I don't know how strict the 10 to 15 items and the $200 budget is going to be, but I've tried to stick with these limits as best I can. So with that in mind, I've based my selection of items on what I like to call OSP, or OSPT, the Overnight Survival Priorities Triangle. I just made that up. As you can see, there are 3 elements to this triangle, hence why it's a triangle, freaking genius. The elements being fire, water, and shelter. All these items work together in an emergency situation to keep you comfortable and alive, which is the main game. For example, obviously shelter is there to keep you dry and warm, or cool if it may be hot, which it can be where I am. Fire will also help to keep you warm and dry, but it will also allow you to purify water, therefore helping to keep you hydrated, and hydration is important to help keep your body efficient at keeping itself cool or warm, and therefore completing the triangle. Righto, first element up is shelter. Clearly the items pictured below could be used to construct a shelter, however they've also been chosen for their multi-use capabilities and their helpfulness in conservation of energy. First item I've selected is an 8x10 nylon tarp. 8x10 should be plenty enough to get yourself out of the wind and the weather. Personally, I believe a tarp is more versatile than a tent. There's many ways it can be set up. For example, it could be used as a lean-to in combination with a fire. It could also be used to collect rainwater if it's raining to help supplement your water supply. The wool blanket, primary use would be to wrap yourself up to keep yourself warm while sleeping or at rest. Its fire retardant properties means it can also be used with a fire. It could also be fashioned into a jacket for the survivalist on the go. Paracord, I've chosen 100 foot of safety orange. Hundreds of uses for paracord, obviously in combination with the tarp, used to erect a shelter. Be used for first aid, could be used for gear repair, could even be used to entertain yourself. Maybe you could make yourself a bright orange paracord bracelet to commemorate the time you had to use your bug out bag. Space blanket, I've chosen an AMK utility sport blanket. Basically this is another small tarp, one side with a reflective surface, one side with a bright orange surface. Many uses for something like that. Obviously you can wrap yourself up in it to keep yourself warm like a normal blanket. You can use it to signal, being bright orange. You could also use it as a ground sheet in combination with your tarp and your paracord. The tent pegs, primarily there to help effect a very quick shelter erection. Erection. But also could be used for digging. Many things need to be dug in a survival situation, so I'll leave that up to your imagination. That completes the items in my shelter element. Okay, next item up on the brilliantly conceived triangle of survival priorities would be water. First item I've chosen is a 2-quart canteen, twice as good as a 1-quart canteen. Next I've chosen a bottle of purification tablets. I believe this one bottle can do 50 litres of water, and if you need more than 50 litres of water in a 24-hour period, there may be a slight chance that you are a fish, and if you are walking around with a bug out bag in the wilderness, you're pretty much stuffed anyway. Next up, I've got a canteen cup, another useful multiple use item. Use it for boiling water, in case you don't like the taste of purification tablets. Also use it to cook and collect wild edibles. I also think you need more than 2 quarts of water storage, particularly in Australia it can get quite warm, so that will not be enough to sustain you in a 24-hour period. So a couple of 1 litre water bottles extra will go a long way to helping you. Next up we have the important element of fire. Obviously we need fire to keep ourselves warm, boil water and cook and whatever else. So for this one I've just chosen 3 basic things. First one is a knife with a paracord wrap handle and a ferro rod. Ferro rod would be my primary source of ignition, and it would be used in combination with the wet fire tinder. Obviously the knife is multi-use in this situation. It has paracord again, which is multiple use. It's a cutting tool, which is extremely important in a survival situation, and it can be used to strike the ferro rod. Wet fire tinders, that's your guaranteed way of lighting a fire in any condition. If local resources are a bit suspect, marginal, i.e. wet, this stuff will help get that stuff going. And as a backup, I would put at least half a dozen Bic lighters in my pack. They're cheap as, you can buy them for $2 for a 6-pack, so why not just have a few in your pack as a backup. And that concludes my triangle of possibilities. Priorities, yeah, whatever. Okay, I've covered the essentials. Now I'm going to cover the less essentials, though they are still very important. First up, I've got some duct tape, a roll of duct tape. Most useful stuff on the planet, so why not? Everybody knows this stuff can do multiple things. You can use it for first aid, gear repair, shelter construction, building bridges over gorges. Though it's only 60 yards, it'd have to be a very small gorge, but that is always an option. Next, I've got a jumbo bandana in red. Would have preferred an orange one, but they didn't have any jumbos in orange. But red should be good for signalling anyway. Could also be used for first aid as a sling, bandages. It can be used as a cold compress if you're overheating. Used as a hat to keep the sun off. Used as a filter to filter water. And so on. Next up, I've got a hand crank flashlight, or torch as us Australians say. Chose the hand crank because it saves having to carry batteries and should always be working. It's LED, so it doesn't need bulbs. And this particular one claims to go for 30 minutes with 1 minute of cranking, which sounds pretty good to me. Next is a first aid kit, and I chose this Adventure Medical Kit's first aid kit specifically because it has scissors in it, which is another cutting tool. It has a compass, which may be good for getting your butt unlost. It also has a whistle, which could come in handy for signalling. Plus it's got all the regular first aid items, such as bandages, band-aids, antibacterial things and whatnot. So it also covers a bit of your hygiene as well. And then the all-important pack. It'd be pretty hard to lug all this stuff around in the bush without something to put it in. So I've chosen this 35 litre pack. It looks like it's a pretty good one. I've never actually seen these before, but it's got nice padded shoulder straps and a padded back, which I think is very important. And that would be my 15 items. So that was my 15 items for $200, or $200.98 to be exact. However, that is $200.98 US dollars, and I'm an Australian, and at this point in time the Aussie dollar is doing remarkably well for a change. So if I was to buy this lot, it would actually only cost me about $190 or thereabouts, plus postage, but we won't include that. So I'm well under the $200. As for what you can see on this page, the way I found out about this competition was through YouTube and the video that Adam from Equipe2Endure put up. Some of the things he said were a little bit ambiguous, I think. Well, ambiguous with the stuff that's printed on the forum, because I'm pretty sure that says 10 to 15 items, $200 max. But some of the things he was saying was if you spend more and you win, you only get the $200, or if you use more than 15 items, you only get a certain amount if you win. So, if that is the case, and you can spend more or put more stuff in your kit, I would like to swap out the paracord knife with ferro rod. I don't know anything about this knife. It might be a really good knife, but just to feel more secure, I would spend the extra $100 or so and get a well-known ferro rod such as the Strike Force and a well-known knife such as the Becker Companion. I'm sure this is a bigger, heavier knife and would probably be a lot more capable in a survival situation. So that's what I would do. For the observant among you who still may be watching this rather long-winded video entry, you may have noticed that I didn't include any sustenance in this kit. Main reason being trying to keep it under $200 and under 15 items. I made other priorities. However, if we're allowed to include extra items, I would throw in these freebies. I have a stash of this stuff at home that I collect from hotels, buffet breakfasts and whatnot, and it wouldn't be too hard to include a couple of packets of peanut butter, some honey, some sugar, some hot chocolates, some biscuits. Not the most nutritional food available for this sort of thing, but some of it's quite nice, especially the Anzac biscuits with peanut butter and a hot chocolate. Yummo. Very morale building when it's cold and wet. Also, I'd like to remind everybody that the links to all my 15 items are in the description below, and to say a big thanks to Equipe2Endure and survivalcamping.com for putting on this great competition. Thanks guys, and top effort.